With the newest Halloween film that just came out this weekend that is supposed to be the end of this brand new Halloween trilogy, I figured I would do this massive ranking of all 13 Halloween movies, as I have been planning this for months, and I hope you guys really enjoy this list because it is going to be a little controversial, as it is with any ranking video that is out there. So if you're just as excited as I am, let's get to it. So to start off the list, we are at number 13, and that is going to be Halloween Resurrection. For most fans and critics, this is easily the worst film in the Halloween franchise, and I still stand by this, as this movie is so hilarious and it's so stupid and the kills are so bad. This is clearly the lowest point of this franchise. I know there's a lot of people who unironically enjoy this film because it is so goofy and hilarious and take it as more of a comedy horror film, which I'm really glad that you do, but unfortunately this movie is just the low point of this franchise. This has to be the worst one, just from this scene right here.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
At number 12, we have Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. This is the 6th installment in this franchise, as it is sort of a retcon of the first 5 movies that were in its own little original series, and this was the Thorn trilogy that comprised of this movie, Halloween H2O, and Halloween Resurrection. This movie is so bad and so annoying to watch, especially because if you are a big fan of this franchise, this movie just makes you angry in every way possible. I also found this to be the most forgettable out of all the movies, as I don't really remember anything about this movie, as I had to go in and look at the plot synopsis for this movie because I genuinely did not remember this movie, and there was a good reason why I didn't, because this movie is just so bad, and for a lot of people it ruined the Halloween franchise. At number 11, we have Halloween 5: The Revenge of Michael Myers. So this is the 5th installment of the Halloween franchise, and this is where Halloween just became the absolute worst and started to dive into the more fantasy, weird realm that the 4th one had already was starting to go for, but this movie just falls apart. This movie is so forgettable. It is bad, it's annoying, the characters are absolutely atrocious, and all the kills in this movie, for the most part, are just straight up forgettable. At number 10, we have Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers. So this is the 4th installment in the Halloween franchise, and well, it's the return of Michael Myers, as he wasn't in the 3rd film, which was called Season of the Witch, and people were excited to see the iconic killer back in another movie. And I know for a lot of people this is a very underrated cult type of film, especially because this movie dives in a little bit more into Michael's backstory, and there are a couple of interesting aspects that I did enjoy about it, but unfortunately I found this movie to be quite bad throughout, especially with a lot of the acting and the production design, and a lot of the kills here just feel very tame. At number 9, we have Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 from 2009. So I think for many critics and fans, this is easily one of the worst Halloween movies ever, as a lot of people have actually put this as their worst Halloween movie, and I can completely understand that because this movie just goes all over the place. It reminded me heavily of Sinister 2 that came out a few years ago that was just totally different from the original Sinister film. The movie doesn't even really feel like a Halloween movie, and I'm totally okay with that, but it goes into this other realm and it just feels like a random, really creepy horror film that I just didn't really care for. This movie is also the most boring Halloween film to date, as I could not sit through this movie, as I took like 5 to 6 pause breaks, which is something I like never ever do. I like to finish the movie from start to finish without taking a break, but this movie just push the limits. At number 8, we have Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007. So I know this movie is ranked very low compared to a lot of lists that I've seen of this movie, and I can completely understand why, because this is a reboot of the original 78 classic, and there are people who really enjoy this movie because it really does everything that you would want from a reboot, but at the same time, it is almost exactly the same as the original movie, and I would just honestly rather watch that one. This movie also features a lot of bad acting, and some of the kills in this movie are sort of cool, but when this movie is almost exactly the same as the original film, why even bother watching this movie? Especially with some of the changes that they do make, didn't really make me care about the movie all that much, and it just felt so inferior to the original film. At number 7, we have the newest installment in the Halloween franchise, which is Halloween Ends. This is definitely going to be the most controversial opinion here, as this movie has been divided all across the board, as there are a lot of people who do enjoy this movie, but for the most part, I think people really hate this movie, as it is a massive disappointment whether you enjoy this movie or not. I think trying to cap this off as the end of this trilogy and going in a completely different direction that I won't spoil just in case you haven't seen it, it was just so bad and uninteresting to watch. Almost the entire time I was watching this film, I honestly wanted to leave because I just didn't care about what was going on, especially when a character that is introduced in this movie isn't well written and just shoved in here just because they didn't have an actual good story to fill out, and then we'll just throw Michael Myers on top of it. It was just a complete and utter mess. At number 6 is a controversial opinion here, but I have Halloween 2 from 1981. So for a lot of people, this is one of the best sequels in the Halloween franchise, and I can completely understand why, because this movie literally takes place on the same night from the original movie, and it's set in a hospital, and Laurie Strode is in the hospital, and there's a lot of interesting things that this movie does. It is very atmospheric, and it feels just like the original movie, and I do respect that quite a bit. I do think this is a very average movie that I don't necessarily quite hate, but I also don't love as well, but I actually do see the appeal of this because this is one of the original Halloween movies. At number 5, we have Halloween Kills from 2021. I found this film to be massively disappointing, especially coming off of 2018's Halloween. That was such a breath of fresh air into this franchise, and the trailers for this movie look so great. It is filled with some of the worst and most corniest dialogue, horrendous acting, and the whole "evil dies tonight, evil dies tonight" is literally one of the worst things I have seen in a horror film that just gets worse each time I watch this movie. But the kills, the horror, and the creativity of it all is very strong here. At number 4, we have Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. So this is a very controversial film, especially when it came out, but it has developed a massive cult following. While I do enjoy the horror aspects of it, especially with the masks and the fantastic, awesome ending that was absolutely perfect, but when you actually get into the meat of the movie, it is very strong, especially with what the masks are able to do in the movie and how everything transpires. I thought it was really interesting, but I think this movie does get way too much heat from Halloween fans because it really should just be called Season of the Witch and have nothing to do with Halloween, because it's not a typical Halloween Michael Myers movie. At number 3, we have Halloween H2O 20 years later. So for a lot of fans, this is one of the best sequels of the franchise, but for a few people, this is considered very disappointing, and a lot of it is because this movie is very tame comparative to the other films, as there isn't a ton of violence and Michael Myers isn't really in it a lot. But I found this movie to be very compelling from a character point of view, with Laurie Strode and her son, and just seeing the relationship evolve in this movie and having that dynamic together. I also really enjoy the horrors that Laurie Strode has to deal with all these years later, which is something that Halloween 2018 definitely took inspiration from. And the third act is actually pretty good as well, and I would definitely watch this movie again and probably have it in my collection. At number 2, we have Halloween from 2018. So Halloween 2018 is obviously, in my opinion, the best sequel in the Halloween franchise, as I have seen this movie around 3 to 4 times at this point, and I still really enjoy it. After each rewatch, the movie does feel a lot cornier and sillier with really bad dialogue and terrible editing, but this movie is very entertaining, and Michael Myers is fantastic in this movie. The score from John Carpenter and his son is great as well, and I really enjoyed the direction that this movie took, being very serious and violent and bloody, and I just love having Jamie Lee Curtis in this movie and being awesome as she is. And now at number 1, which is probably which I would hope on every person's list, Halloween from 1978, the classic original film that still holds up today. It changed the game for horror films, for slashers, and is considered one of the best horror films of all time, and I completely agree with it. It is just absolutely amazing with great performances, great kills. It inspired so many other films like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. There's nothing else I can really say about this movie, but if you are interested in my full detailed thoughts, I do have a review of the original Halloween film that I did a couple years ago. I'll link it down below in the comment section if you want to check it out. But that is my ranking of all 13 Halloween movies. I know it's very controversial, and it will be for any movie franchise, especially horror. So let me know down below, do you agree with my list? What is your ranking of the Halloween movies? I can't wait to hear about those. Before you guys check out this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a like if you want to, and ring that notification bell so I can see you all in the following video.